Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Yashoda Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Rangana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Rangana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hi, Bo. So I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome back Jesse. We'd like to welcome back Chris. He was here last week. No, he's a regular. He's a big supporter of our classes here. We'd like to welcome back Curtis. We're in the last part of chapter 5 through 40, I believe. Om Ajnana Tamarandhyasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namah Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuddha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavani Ishvare Visubhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Shri Shukleshna Shaya Paramananda Daine Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Mad Guru Man Madara Mad Nistaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namostute Asadu Sadu Tadayan Atini Chochatakara Hanamuncha Karachinnam Premno Hritkatayos Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritan Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Ajanulambita Bhuja Kanakavadatta Sankirtanai Kapitara Kamalaya Taksha Vishvambara Dvishavara Yugadharma Palau Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Avatar. Happy to see everybody, or happy to be doing Srimad Bhagavatam. Celebration. I was thinking today that anytime we really get to gather and do the Srimad Bhagavatam class, it's a celebration. It's really, really wonderful. And it's extremely auspicious. And today's of course, the disappearance of Thakur. And you didn't miss much. It was just like, I just saw later. You see, you're saying, yeah, I saw your little post about bummer wish it was posted sooner. It wasn't like a major gathering. It was just
okay. Yeah. It was just a nice part of the morning.
It was just like breakfast late, and Diro sang one bhajan. That was all.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was still a really nice feast, though. You made a little bit extra. But of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, great and powerful previous acharyas, the father of Srila Prabhupada's guru, and one of the greatest gurus in our movement, and essentially the exponent, the great mastermind behind the modern Krishna consciousness. And by his vision, everything is happening today that we're seeing. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur single-handedly recovered the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita from obscurity and basically breathed life back into the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wrote over 100 books. Extremely prolific, powerful Mahabhagavat, who is a personification of the Bhagavatam. And doing that all while being a grihasta, which is most impressive, rather than a householder, someone who lives with family. Not only did he live with a family, he had 14 children. So,
and he was a judge. Yeah. And when you look at that schedule of his, like what his average day is,
he
slept like 2 hours.
Yeah,
he only slept 2 hours. Yeah,
he's like studying. He's going to be a judge, reading.
He's actually an incarnation of Kamala Manjari from the spiritual world. One of Radharani's very close friends, not Kamala Harris. So, okay.
I have a question real quick.
Okay.
So, before Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there was only like a few hundred Gaudiya Vaishnavas really left or something like that?
I can't say any specific numbers, but a lot of Vaishnavism had become sahaja, meaning that it was like people were dressing like gopis and doing weird stuff, Like it wasn't the genuine teachings. But actually, because Jagannath Das Babaji, the Shiksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was 140 years old, so there was a big. He was like the Charya for a long, long time, And so he was around at the time of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, who's the disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was a great, obviously one of the greatest acharyas, and who basically Srila Prabhupada's purports are based off of. who wrote the famous song Samsara Dava Nalalita Loka Tranaya Karunya Ganaganatvam, as well as many other wonderful things. And so up until Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there was some life in that movement. But we understand that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is directly connected to the six Goswamis and essentially resurrected that movement by defeating all the Sahajas on the basis of the teachings of Rupa Sanatan, Rupa Raghunath, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
Didn't he basically recover the Chaitanya Charitamrita too? It was like,
yeah,
it never been.
Well, it was, the thing was what I understand, there's more to the story, is that the Chaitanya Charitamrita was existent in northern India, in Vrindavan, but not in Bengal. Because the Chaitanya Charitamrita is originally in Bengali. So if Bhaktivinoda Thakur translated it from Orissa back to Bengali, and that's the modern Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't think that's the case because it's the Chaitanya Charitamrita is in rhyme. And so we also know that Indradyumna Swami is in possession of the original manuscript of Chaitanya Charitamrita in his Kavach, one of the many great things in his Kavach. He's like the most powerful Kavach in the history of the world. Actually, some of the things he has in there is like Rupa Goswami's the manuscript for the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Lord Chaitanya's piece of Lord Chaitanya's sandal, incredible stuff. So, all right, we'll jump in. So anybody remember last week we talked a little bit about karma yoga last week? Anybody remember any points on that? Okay. So we talked about mixed bhakti and we talked about pure bhakti. So we just want to clarify the difference that there's different stages of bhakti yoga. The highest stage is what you're attached to. So what is your attachment? So a karma yogi, he's attached to certain types of work. Say I want to be married and I want to do this job. So I'm attached to that, but I'm also attached to Krishna. So I'm doing that, but I'm giving that to Krishna. I'm offering that result of that work to Krishna, which is good. This is Krishna consciousness. But the higher level is that my attachment is completely to Krishna. And so I'm working, doing what Krishna wants me to do. This is pure bhakti. You see the difference?
It's like karma bhakti or something like that. Right?
Karma Mishra Bhakti, Mishra Bhakti karma. So it starts off with just karma. Then there's Mishra Bhakti karma. And I'm doing pretty much karma with a little tinge of bhakti. And then I'm doing bhakti with a little tinge of karma. And then there's also Jnana Mishra Bhakti, which is, now I'm doing jnana. I'm actually speculating, but there's still some bhakti there. There's some devotion to Krishna, so I'm getting benefit. Because if you're doing jnana without any devotion, there's no benefit. And then it comes up to the stage of Shuddha Bhakti, which is defined by Rupa Goswami as Anyabi Lashita Shunyam Gyanam Karmani Navritam Anukulyena Krishna Shidanam Bhakti Rutama. Pure devotional service is defined by freedom from karma, meaning freedom from any type of fruitive activity. I don't have any desires. I just want to serve Krishna. And freedom from speculation. That this impersonal thing has got to go completely out of the way for one to be performing pure devotional service. That devotional service should be favorable and in following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Favorable and pleasing to Krishna. So that's a key point we can take away about devotional service, is how do you really please Krishna? It's not so much what you do. Well, I opened 100 temples. It's really more importantly who you are. Are you really loving the devotees? How's your consciousness? And so you'll taste a lot more out of that. So now we're going to move into the last section here. Narada teaches his personal mantra. So someone can please bring up, we're at text 37, I believe.
Chapter 5.
And we're going to finish this chapter today and move on to the next chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Nirudaya Namasankarshanaya Cha. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva, along with his plenary expansions Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. According to the Pancharatra, Narayana is the primeval cause of all expansions of Godhead. These are Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Vasudeva and Sankarshan are in the middle left, and right. Pradyumna is on the right of Sankarshan. Aniruddha is on the left of Vasudeva, and there are 4 deities are situated. Thus, the 4 deities are situated. They are known as the 4 Adis Dikamp of Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, this is an interesting point. This is the Chatra Vyuha, the first introduction to the Chatra Vyuha, which is a point of great confusion for most devotees. It's not actually, it's very technical knowledge, very technical theology, but it'd be good for us to understand it if you're actually into understanding this, because it's going to come up a lot in Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is kind of in line with the process of creation. So Krishna consciousness works like this. There is Krishna. He's the original personality of Godhead. Ete chamsha kala pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indriyayi Vakilam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Out of all the previous mentioned expansions and parts of expansions, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. He appears periodically to defend the demigods and to defeat the demons. So that Krishna in Vrindavan, in New Goloka Vrindavan, that's the original Godhead, full of knowledge, full of bliss. He possesses all 64 qualities of Godhead, and he's our eternal home, our eternal lover, our eternal shelter, our eternal friend. He's the ultimate end of all knowledge. And if you can come to this loving devotion to Krishna, then you're in good hands. You're in good shape. From Krishna expands, first expansion, Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is Krishna, but white. But he's in the mood of serving Krishna. He's God, but he's in the mood of serving God. So there's God, and then there's God in the mood of serving God.
Jesus.
Exactly. Jesus is an expansion of Lord Balaram. There's no doubt about that. And this is actually goes along. I was hearing one discussion between one Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava, and one Catholic priest, Father Richard Rohr, and he was speaking about this in the sense of Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's very interesting. I can't go into too many details, but so from Balaram, and Krishna expands another expansion of Krishna called Vasudeva. This Vasudeva is the Vasudeva of Dwarka, which is Krishna's other place. It's like a lower planet in Goloka. There's Krishna Loka, there's Goloka Vrindavan is the highest planet, and then Dwarka, Mathura and Dwarka. And so then there's Vasudeva. And from Vasudeva comes another Balaram known as Sankarshan. And then Krishna's children, Pradyumna, and his grandson Aniruddha. That's the original Chatravyuha. And then from them expands another Chatravyuha known as the Narayan Chatravyuha. And they're the 4-handed Chatravyuha. And then that Sankarshan, from him expands Mahavishnu, and the material world is created. This is all very elaborately explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Not that you have to remember that, but at least you heard it, because most people don't ever understand it. So we'll go to text number 38. Any questions on that? Kind of something many devotees are interested in. Iti mritya bidanena mantra murti mamurtikam yajate yaga purusham sa samyak darshana puman. Someone read, please.
Thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of the transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form.
Report.
Our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord Vishnu. He is therefore worshipped by sound representation. Anything which is beyond the scope of it fully by the sound representation. A person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spirituality? This experience is not a vague and personal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge.
Pause for a second. Can someone repeat back to me what Srila Prabhupada is saying here? Chris Prabhu, Chris G.
If you
can hear Krishna's name, then you are.
Nice, very concise. So one thing we hear often and rascal gurus, so the scriptures are only an indication of the truth. But the truth, the real truth is experienced. Who's heard that before in the process of their preaching? There's one impersonalist who came here and he became very angry at me. Very, very angry at me. He actually told me to shut up.
How is that not true though?
Because this sound vibration is a spiritual experience. We experience how this Bhagavatam changes people's hearts. Shrinvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto hibadrani vidanoti sarit satam. Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is situated in the heart of all living beings, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of a devotee who has developed an urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So a devotee who develops the desire to hear about Krishna, he experiences Krishna in that sound of the Bhagavatam.
But none of this is valid in English, right?
None of this is valid. Yeah, why is it not?
Because English
No,
much less.
God is not bound by any language. God is not bound by language.
Isn't it more powerful in Sanskrit though? Or
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Krishna Katha has its own vibration. It's transcendental. We're speaking about Krishna, the message of Godhead, because Narada Muni confirms this when he says, Tadvaj Vishargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishloka Mabhadavyat Yapi Namanyantas Yasya Sankintaniya Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinati Sadavaha. That even though these literatures are imperfectly composed, they are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
If you put it all together, but just one scripture? I mean.
One scripture, why? One scripture, one verse. My favorite verse, you know what my favorite verse is? I'm going to try to guess. My favorite Sanskrit line of all time. My favorite Sanskrit line. Just try to guess. It's really difficult, but you might be able to guess it. It's really difficult to get this one.
Yeah, there's only how many verses? I'm trying to narrow it down.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. That's my favorite song, I'm telling you. It's a good song. I love it. I sing it every day. But, the thing is the sound vibration itself is Krishna. And so the experience of hearing Bhagavatam is a spiritual understand is that it's not like we're reading a history book and we want to read about Italy. If I get a book and I read about Italy, I'm only getting an indication of Italy. I'm not experiencing Italy. But when you read about Krishna, you're experiencing Krishna.
How do you know it was translated properly?
How do you know it was translated properly? Well, there's a word-for-word translation there.
Words don't go, they don't match up.
Also, there's also a result. Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee. You see, there's a book Bhagavat, and there's a person Bhagavat. So a person Bhagavat is qualified to speak on the book Bhagavat. Anyhow, the message is the point. It's not that, like it has to be word for word correct. It's the message. What is the essence of the message? Once again, the same verse I already quoted. Even though imperfectly composed, such literatures are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Because they're filled with descriptions of the transcendental personality of Godhead, which bring about a change in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. So if you hear about Krishna, you'll be purified. And I think that we're all proof enough to understand that.
Is there some validity that the Sanskrit has more potency? Like the Krishna means all attractive. Can't just say all attractive one, and it probably wouldn't have the same effect as if I say Krishna, right?
Yes, there's some legitimacy to the Sanskrit being all being more potent, but the sound vibration is still the same ultimately if it's in English. The sound vibration of the Krishna Katha is it's the message of Krishna. And anyhow, attractive one with God in mind, they'll still be purified. But that's a secondary name of God, whereas Krishna is a primary name of God. You see, like we can say so many things describing God, like we can call him Ishvara, meaning the controller. We can Bhagavan, possessor of all opulences. Those are names of God, but they're secondary. We can call him God. That's describing him and in his opulent form, but his personal name, his internal names, Krishna, Govinda, Rama, Radharaman, Vanamali. These names are transcendental names. And so when they're chanted, they're more potent. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in the Harinam Chintani. So anyhow, this is what's being said here is a person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? The experience is not vague, impersonal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. If you stay connected to Krishna Kata, you stay connected to Krishna. That's how you stay connected to Krishna. That's how you become enthusiastic in this endeavor. You hear all the time, a lot. You become a pure devotee. You become a sage page by page.
Can I share just a quote from Prabhupada?
Please.
He said, it doesn't require that one has to learn Sanskrit. Someone's asking him a question about it. We've got so many disciples, it's not that they first of all learned Sanskrit. They heard. It may be in Sanskrit language or in English language, it doesn't matter. Letting you hear the real fact, that is what is wanted. So although the Vedic mantras are in Sanskrit, the process to understand is to hear. To hear, it may be in any language. To hear and understand, then he becomes perfect. So it is not the Sanskrit language, it is the hearing which is important.
Exactly. In the Sanskrit, it's more important for Vedic mantras that are to do with like demigod worship and so forth, but not necessarily with this Bhagavat Dharma. If I say you're not your body, just give up everything and love Krishna, what's the difference between me saying that in English and Sanskrit? Because we don't understand God. We're not personalists. That's the problem. You want everything to be technical because you don't have any personal relationship with God. That's the beginning stage. You find the new bhaktas, they're always so technical. They want to be serious. They love this, but like if I do it wrong, I don't wave my hand the right way. If I mispronounce the mantra, I got to do all the mudras. I got to look real serious when I'm worshiping the deity. I got to look, like I'm into it. And I got to dress real cool, big tilaks, I got to have all the perfectly shaved head, I got to have all the paraphernalia. I got to wear a kopin all the time, never anything else. This is like, I need these things because I got to be sure I'm doing it right, or else God's not going to be pleased. This is kind of a lower stage. Of course, we want to be technically right, but that's not the essence. The essence is love. When you have a personal relationship with God, if you spend any time with my spiritual master, our spiritual master, and you'll know, there's a difference between, this really technical thing and then the spontaneous love, the factual connection with God, which is on a mystical level. And so all these technicalities we get caught on are because we are not on the level of experiential. We've not come to the mystical plane yet. I heard a Catholic definition of mystic is when God goes from being a belief to an experience. And so as long as you're on this system of like doing all these processes, you're not actually on the experiential level, then you'll have to think all these technical ways. But when one's on the experiential level, they'll still follow the technical ways, but they'll understand that doesn't stop the loving relationship in my heart with the Lord. And so that comes from really hearing and chanting. When you really take those beads and you chant seriously, not just walking around and blah, blah, blah. Like I'm going to meditation, a prayer, very serious japa, then you'll very quickly have an experience of the Lord. Or just go to Mayapur and look at Radhamadava, and that's it. That's all you'll need. You'll know God's real as it can be. Right? Any other points on that? Does that make a clear point? Because so the sound vibration is Krishna himself. It's not that it's indicating Krishna, it is Krishna. And so that's why the Bhagavatam is so purifying. That's why the devotees, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Sambido, bhavanti hritkana rasayana kata What's the verse? I don't remember it. Satam prasangam amavirya sambiro bhivanti hritkarna rasayana kataha tajjosana rasvapavarga vartmani shradha ratir bhaktir anukramishyati. That when you're in the association of devotees, this sound is very sweet to the ear, very pleasing to the heart. It opens the doors of liberation, and in that association, one develops shraddha, faith, shraddha, ratir, attachment, bhakti, love for the personality of Godhead. Shraddha, ratir, bhakti, anukramishiti. One develops faith, attachment, and love for God. And we all see it. You wouldn't be here if that happening. You're becoming attached to this class.
How are we trying to get rid of attachment?
You be attached to Krishna. We want to be attached to Krishna. That's the only way to be detached. Otherwise, you'll just be attached to being detached, which is just another form of trap. When you're attached to Krishna, you're factually transcendental to all these things. That's the transcendental plane. So if you hear Bhagavatam with pure devotees, it's so much fun that you develop faith, love, and attachment for God. And that's an experience. You cannot deny it. Everybody who comes to hear Bhagavatam becomes purified. That's no doubt about it. Right, Omar? Right, Jesse? Right, Curtis? Right, Thomas? Right, Chris? Right, Kirtaneshwar? Right, Jamuna? She's hearing Bhagavatam for many lifetimes. So, go to the next verse. Imam swanigamam brahman avetya maranushtitam aran me jnanam aishvaryam swasmin bhavam chakeshava. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and with his intimate loving service. It have to be gradually. If you want it right now, you can have it right now. After this, the devotee is endowed, just usually. After this, the devotee is endowed with mystic opulences. Are we hearing this, folks? That a devotee has jnanam, knowledge, aishvaryam, spiritual opulences, and ultimately swamsim bhavam, intimate loving service. So this intimate loving service is beyond that. And so Prabhupada is saying, and above all, the devotees is accepted in the confidential entourage of the Lord and is entrusted with a specific service of the Lord through the agency of the spiritual master. This is what we're talking about here. I don't just have a guru and put him on the shelf. I have a guru. He's teaching me cool things. What is the guru? He's giving you a place in the service of the Lord. If you take that seriously, that actually, what was Prabhupada's one question to his guru? How many of you have asked a question to Guru Dev before? Okay. And so Prabhupada only asked his guru one question. Remember? Anybody know? No, I know you know. Anybody know? Prabhupada's only question his guru was? How can I serve you? So I've heard Gurudev get questions like, so many, I'm not going to bring them out, so many weird questions. So many weird questions. Especially about how do I really enjoy my material life? I want to really enjoy my spouse, but I can't. Help me, Gurudev. I want to enjoy. Okay, I'm trying to help you so you can get through that, But, it's far, far away from how can I serve you? Dasosmi, I'm your servant. What does the Guru say? Like Gorky Shordas Babaji Maharaj, right? They came. Said, oh, you want to serve me? Sit down and chant Hare Krishna. No, can't do that. God forbid I sit down and chant Hare Krishna and do nothing else. So the Guru is a facility that gives us service, and that's what people don't understand. They want to really, they start projecting their material views on the Guru. But the Guru who's factually engaged in the service of the Lord, he's doing something authorized by Lord Chaitanya. He's spreading the holy name. He's spreading this Krishna conscious movement. And the Guru, if you're surrendered, will authorize you to do what you are incapable of doing otherwise. That's called empowerment. That's the mystical power of a devotee, that they can give a class, they can defeat any argument by the mystic potency of the Guru and the Lord. That they're getting intelligence from the Lord because they're authorized. And therefore, such a person who's engaging in this Krishna conscious movement They're confidential associates of Lord Chaitanya, and they're going to return back home, back to Godhead. There's no doubt about it. Become a preacher. Omar Prabhu.
So what does it mean by perfecting the chanting process? Is that just like chanting without offenses?
Yes. But you should, if you want to really get into that, I recommend reading the Harinam Chintamani by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or a certain book that I gave away to someone by Sachinanda Swami.
So Prabhupada didn't do like kriyas, pranayama, no physical sadhana, none of that.
Physical. You just said this word physical. I'm going to bring that out for a second.
He didn't.
You're not this body.
Right.
So, what is the soul?
I don't really know how to define things.
Mamaivam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manastashtash indriyani prakriti snani karsha. The soul is part and parcel of Krishna. He is Sat Chit Ananda. The soul is eternally spiritual. Nijayate muyate va karachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha ajo nitya shashvato yam parano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. He is unborn, everlasting, primeval. He doesn't die when the body dies. He has nothing to do with the material body. He's completely aloof from it. So all these physical processes simply lead one to realizing this bhakti process. That is a fact, corroborated in all the scriptures. This very, very special verse here, this is described. It's Aho bataswa pachato gariyan yajjiva grevartate namatubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu shashnur arya brahmanachur nama grinati ete. If one comes to the stage of chanting the holy name offenselessly, such a person has already done tepus. He's done all austerities. Tepus tapaste juhuvu. He's done all the sacrifices. Sasnur, he's taken all the sacred baths. Arya, he's developed all the good qualities of a saintly person. A person who's chanting the holy name is beyond all of those things. Brahmanachar nama grinati yete. He's beyond all of them. And therefore he's qualified to perform Vedic yagas. He's beyond a Brahmin. He's beyond a priest. He's beyond everything. He's a Vaishnava. He's transcendental. So Prabhupada, no, he didn't have to do any of that stuff because he's engaging in the service of the Lord. That's why the Lord Krishna gives an entire book of all these different things. And then he says, don't worry about it, abandon it all. Sarva dharman parityaja. Give it all up. You don't got to do any of this stuff. Just surrender to me. I'll relieve you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Just always think of me, become my devotee, worship me. In this way, you'll come to me without fail. But we become attached. Krishna says those who are ignorant, they become attached to these flowery practices. You know, they want to look cool. They want the cool beards. They want all this cool stuff.
It helps you sit still.
Prabhupada didn't sit still. Prabhupada went and served and, slept 2 hours a night. But what was the result? The amount of people he was able to help. Still to this day, we're still reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Vaishnava is transcendental to all of our conceptions of what we think is spiritual. You see? Factually, there's no need for that stuff. And, we can say there are some people who can advance in Ashtanga yoga and Kriya yoga, and they may even be able to perform like Mahasamadhi and leave their body. That doesn't necessarily mean they go back to Godhead. Even if you read the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda is preaching all this stuff, and I give a lot of respect to Yogananda. I don't want to criticize him, but he says all the saints I meet, none of them are liberated. Only 2 people he met were liberated: his guru's guru and one other person. So it's very rare. But anybody who engages in Krishna consciousness is liberated by the grace of the Lord. This is the most powerful process. Is everything. So yeah, there's no need. If one comes to the stage of offenseless chanting, meaning that we're no longer making the offenses, and actually really the biggest thing is chant attentively. If you can do that, you can pretty much defeat all the other offenses. That takes discipline. That takes mercy and grace. Let me sit down and let me chant. Let me really hear the holy name. And you'll see actually how the chanting process, you experience perfection. Like I was hearing this quote by Bhaktivinoda Thakur today, one can experience perfection in the course of their daily activities by chanting Hare Krishna sincerely and seriously. That's the thing that we got to really realize that the chanting, we're the Hare Krishna movement. We chant Hare Krishna. That's really what it's all about.
Sitting is better than walking.
Yes, but yes, there's no hard and fast rules though. The better you can do, the better you can sit and hear is nice. But Prabhupada also walked and chanted. But Prabhupada also said, people bring that up. Prabhupada walked and chanted. Prabhupada also was asked, and Prabhupada said, if you can sit and chant 16 rounds, this is very pleasing to Lord Krishna. But I mean, that's taken me 8 years to do, to be able to sit and chant.
Is that mainly because there's just less distractions?
There's no
When
distraction.
you're walking, you're like
Yeah,
sensory overload.
there's no
You're feeling
distraction.
You're feeling stuff in your body. You're feeling
And it's just
things.
the holy name and the beat and the japa beads. That's like a transcendental experience. It's the only reason I'm here. The only reason I'm alive, actually. I wouldn't be able to handle my life.
Of walking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate
I like to walk and chant too. I miss it. I'm really attached to doing the way I do now. Okay, we'll move on. Unless there's any more questions or comments on that.
I like to rock and chant.
Yeah, rocking is nice. I do that too. I always rock a little. Helps my autism. Tvam adyadabra shruta vishrutam vebo samapyate yena vidam bubushitam prakyani dukar muhir aridatmanam shanklesha nirvana mushanti nanyata. Please therefore describe the Almighty Lord's activities, which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the common people, who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. This is Narada Muni. This is the instruction of the Guru. This is the ultimate instruction that Narada Muni is giving his disciple. Narada Muni is the factual greatest Guru. So someone can read the purport.
Sri Narada Muni, from practical experience, definitely asserts that the prime solution of all problems of material work is to broadcast very widely the transcendental glories of the Supreme Lord. There are 4 classes of good men, and there are 4 classes of bad men also. The 4 classes of good men acknowledge the authority of the Almighty God, and therefore such good men, 1, when they are in difficulty, 2, when they are in need of money, 3, when they are advanced in knowledge, and 4, when they are inquisitive to know more and more about God, intuitively take shelter of the Lord, such as Narada Ji advises Vyasadeva to broadcast the transcendental knowledge of God in terms of the vast Vedic knowledge which he had already attained. As far as the bad men are concerned, there are also 4 in number. 1, those who are simply addicted to the mode of progressive fruitive work, and thus are subjected to the accompanying miseries. 2, those who are simply addicted to, vicious?
Yeah,
Vicious work for sense satisfaction, and so suffer the consequence. 3, those who are material, very much advanced in knowledge, but who suffer because they do not have the sense to acknowledge the authority of the Almighty Lord. And 4, the class of men who are known as atheists and who therefore purposely hate the very name of God, although they are always in difficulty. Sri Narada Ji advised Vyasadeva to describe the glories of the Lord just to do good to all 8 classes of men, both good and bad. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore not meant for any particular class of men instead. It is for the sincere soul who actually wants his own welfare and peace of mind.
Jai. Okay, so Prabhupada saying Narada is telling his disciple, Sampyate vidam bubushitam, satisfy the hankerings of learned men, and advitatmanam sanklesha nirvanam, mitigate the miseries of common people. So the solution in any case is to hear the glories of the Lord. Akama sarvakamova moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purushaparam. If you're akama, if you have no desires, worship Krishna. If you're sarvakama, you have all desires, like me, worship Krishna. If you're moksha kama, if you just want liberation, worship Krishna. Yajita purushaparam, people with intelligence, worship Krishna. Bhakti yogena. They worship, they do bhakti. People with intelligence. People without intelligence, they take shelter of that which is temporary, secondary. Worship Krishna. Understanding that Krishna will remove that material desire from your heart. The good way, the easy way, or the hard way. In India, it's well known. They know Krishna. I'm not going to go near Krishna. I'm going to stay away from Krishna. I don't want to touch Krishna. I know what he does. I know what he's going to do. He'll take it all away. And sometimes that's the thing when we really face it, like, I want to enjoy, but I also want to be a devotee. Krishna says, I never satisfy the desires of such a man. Rather, I burn them all to ashes. I love him for that. All righty. Now we're at a very nice chapter 6. Jai Hari Bol.
Would you run down what the chapters were about so far? Because for some reason it's not sticking in my head.
Okay.
Or the storyline,
Yes. Love that.
the characters.
Someone can hit me up. Someone can start off if they want, and I'll for anybody have it. Invocation, yes. We first off started with the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We define what God was. Janmad Yasya Yaton Yavari Taratash Chart Eja Vigaswa. Tene Brahmahriya Adi Kavye Muyanti Yatsurya Tejo Varimitam Yatavin Mayo Yatratri Sagamasa. Damna Swena Danar Hasta Suhu. Damna Swena Sadan Rasta Ku Kam Satyam Param Yimahi. We define God in so many ways. Read the first verse. And we define what the Srimad Bhagavatam was. Dhamma Projito Kaitavo. That it's defeats all cheating religions, which are based off sense gratification, making money, just mundane religion, and liberation. All that stuff is rejected by Srimad Bhagavatam. And it uproots the threefold miseries of material existence because it is auspicious for all. And it was compiled by the great sage Vyasa in his maturity. And then we heard about the questions of the sages, right? So Sutta Goswami was elected the president of the sages who gathered together at Naimisaranya to decide how to help us in Kali Yuga. They had a meeting. Let's help the people of Kali Yuga. It's going to be dark. What can we do to help them? And so they elected Sutta Goswami the president of the assembly. He's the son of Ramaharshan Sutta, who was killed by a piece of grass by Lord Balaram. And Sutta Goswami then answered the 6 questions of the sages, right? And we went over the 6 questions for like 2 months straight. So I'm sure some of that remembered, what is the good for all humanity? What happened to, where did religious principles take shelter after Krishna left, and so forth. So we heard the 6 questions of the sages, and then Sutta began speaking. He spoke on the 2nd chapter. He spoke the science of bhakti. And he described, basically the entire science, how it works, and that was very technical. And then we heard about the incarnations of the Lord, all the various incarnations, and we heard that Krishna is the supreme incarnation. We heard that Kali Yuga is very dark, and that the way to defeat Kali Yuga, Krishna swadamo pagate dharma jnana dibisa kalanastadusamesa paranarko dinonitaha. We heard that this Bhagavat Purana, which is brilliant like the sun, has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with religion and knowledge. This Purana is perfect in itself to deliver one from the darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali. Just by hearing Bhagavatam, it's all you need. And then we heard about a question was asked: how did the Bhagavatam come to be? And we heard about why did Vyasa write the Bhagavatam? And we heard about Shukadev Goswami. Why did Shukadev Goswami speak the Bhagavatam? And why did Maharaj Parikshit, the great king, leave everything to hear the Bhagavatam? We heard these questions. And so then now we're hearing the answer to those questions, how Vyasadeva was feeling dissatisfied. It's kind of when you were gone, some of this stuff happened. Vyasadeva was feeling very dissatisfied. And so in his dissatisfaction, his guru appeared on the scene and then began to speak to him and tell him why you're dissatisfied is because you wrote all these nonsense Vedas. You wrote all these Vedas and you didn't even give anybody the essence. Rather, you just bewildered people more and made them more attached to sense gratification. And so he chastised his disciple and he said, the reason you're unhappy is because you haven't described the glories of the Lord. You've yet to describe the glories of the Lord. And so now we're hearing just that. these teachings of Narada. And we'll hear this continuous conversation. The next, we're going to hear about how Maharaj Parikshit was born. Does that make sense? Coolio? This is a very, very good chapter here. This is a beautiful chapter, beautiful pastime. Sutta uvacha evan nishamya bhagavan devashir janma karmacha bhuya praprachatan brahman vyasa satyavati sutta. O Brahmanas, Sutta said, thus hearing all about Narada's birth and activities, Vyas, a day, the incarnation of God and the son of Satyavati, inquired as follows. Next verse. Vyasa uvacha bhikshubir viprabhashite she vigyana deshtrabhishtava vartmano vyasa adye tata kem akarad bhavan. Sri Vyasadeva said, what did you do after the departure of the great sages who instructed you in the specific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? So it's natural for a disciple to inquire about his guru. How did you come to all this knowledge? And there's a mystical thing about the guru that when you really have faith in your guru, when you really serve your guru, when you really love your guru, that's mystical stuff happens. That's a fact. I promise you that. That's a fact. That when you really look beyond the externals and you really give your life, that's a fact. That's when mystical things really start happening. You become endowed with something that's indescribable. It's the key. And we next, okay, my phone's about to lock. Swayambhuva kaya vritya vartitam te param vaya katam chedam mudarakshishi kata chedam mudarakshi kale prapte kalevaram. O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? How did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? He's asking, like, what did you do after your initiation? Natural to ask the Guru these questions. What's your sadhana? You learn so much like that. Text 5. Prakalpa vishayametam smritim te munisatama nyahesha vyavadat kala esha sarva nirakriti. O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? Prabhupada says, the spirit is not annihilated even after the annihilation of the material body. So also the spiritual consciousness is not annihilated. There's no loss. If one develops spiritually, they don't lose it. Sri Narada developed the spiritual consciousness even when he had his material body in the previous kalpa. So even though actually Narada died at the end of Brahma's day, like that day of Brahma ended, like you're talking like 4 billion years ago, like 8 billion years ago. This happened. We're hearing about them that happened 8 billion years ago. Narada is about to speak about like his serving the devotees. And then when that happened, now he's in this present life as the sage Narada. But he was we heard about how he was a little boy serving the sages. I think you were gone for that also. Narada Muni was explaining how he was a little boy and he was just serving sages. He was just serving these sages who came in. His mom was like a maid at a hotel. And because these sages were staying there, he was serving them and hearing from them very submissively. In that service, he became enlightened because he was serving such great sages. Prabhupada called it Bhaktivedanta, so that's a clue there for us, Sir Prabhupada. And he took their remnants, ate the food they ate, and in that way he became very transcendentalized and learned this knowledge. And so then the sages left, and now we're hearing about that. But then that was in his last life. Now in his present life, he's a sage who was born from Brahma at the beginning of time. You know, he's one of the oldest creatures in the universe. He's actually the last of the mental sons of Brahma. And so Narada Muni is completely spiritualized personality who can go anywhere, all-pervasive, Christ-like figure. Essentially the most powerful sage in the universe.
And he couldn't have done that being a maidservant's son?
This was the result of that. Well, there's a whole pastime behind that. There's a whole pastime how he went from. You have a question?
No.
There's a whole pastime how he went from. He's always Narada, but he had to go through a little bit of a trip where he actually, before he was a maidservant's son, he was a Gandharva, and he was cursed to be a maidservant's son because he was doing rock and roll on a kirtan festival. It's true, that's what he was doing.
On that same instrument that he's famous for.
It was actually a guitar this time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. He was doing that. And then the Gandharvas were like, this is a kirtan festival. And he was like showing off to the girls. So, goes to show you. There ain't any hope for us folks. My own Lord Chaitanya's mercy is our only hope. It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, they say, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. Help me, Lord Nityananda, you're my only hope. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. In his previous life, when Naradaji was impregnated with spiritual knowledge, by the grace of the great sages, there was a tangible change in his life, although he was only a boy of 5 years old. This is an important symptom visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. Anybody getting ready to take initiation here? There's 3 devotees that are going to take initiation in this room next month, on the 10th. So remember, there's a tangible change. Thomas, Omar, and Jesse. We've all been chanting 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra very rigidly, following 4 regulative principles, doing valuable service for the Krishna consciousness movement. They've been doing wonderful service and living very spiritual, blissful lives. And so they've taken shelter with spiritual master very seriously. And I've seen Bhakta Omar from day one. He was sitting right there, coming in from the lower planets. And, coming into the higher dimension. Last night, Padmanayan Prabhu called me from Mayapur Institute. It's like always one of those things where I'm like it's what he always calls me when I'm like in nonsense. I'm like playing my guitar and I'm like, it's Padmanayan. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisance. How can I serve you? Like, so I am coming to Tucson. Please make arrangements. He goes, who are you bringing to Mayapur Institute this year? I said, that boy, Dr. Omar. And so, Dr. Omar, the Padmanayan was speaking that night. So Padmanayan was the first devotee Omar heard from. And so we see that he's also, if there's one person in this world I consider a genuine Shiksha Guru of mine, it's Padmanayan Prabhu, without a doubt.
He's coming to Tucson or he already came?
He's coming. He comes every year. He's amazing. I call him a Jedi. He's like the most Jedi devotee I ever met. Amazing devotee.
When's he coming?
The dates have not been arranged yet. So he always chastises me. He says, will you come to Mayapur this year? I said, no, Prabhu, I'm not coming to do Bhakti Vaibhav. Why? I just don't have the money, Prabhu. I got other things I got to do. Next year, though, I promised. Ekat majame janani yosin muda chakinkari mayatmaje nanya gatau chakre sneha nubadunam. I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maidservant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. Next verse. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. So see what we're seeing here? That she wanted to maintain him, but she couldn't because she's not independent. Krishna's in charge of everything. So, can't always get what you want. Lord's in control. When I was a mere child of 5 years old, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten by a leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. This is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. The poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother, and yet the mother was taken from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely at the mercy of the Lord. So Krishna tends to do that. Remember, if it looks good, if it looks materially good, it's probably a lesson. Hi, Bo, Mother.
Oh, everybody's here.
Hi, Krishna.
Can I ask you a little favor?
What's that?
Um,
What's that?
There's a box in front of, Sundami's house. Would you bring it and just drop it off at my place?
Yeah, of course.
Huh?
Of course.
It's heavy. Sorry to bother you.
No worries.
There's your meditation.
Hari Bo, Hare Krishna. Okay, so if it looks good materially, it's probably an akbar. It's a trap. It's looking, yeah, like General Akbar from Star Wars. It's a trap. Admiral Akbar. It's a trap.
The Roadrunner.
Yeah, it's a trap. It looks like it looks good. But, you know, that's Krishna. Krishna's trying to remove your material attachments. But it's okay. It's good too. It's a trap, but it's a good trap because when you go into it, he's going to remove your material attachments. So be prepared. I never seen anybody successfully enjoy this material world and be a devotee. I've not seen it one time. Anybody have any examples?
Well, you guys like to eat, and you like to collect things in your whatever, and you like to talk to people. You like some material things?
It's not material.
No?
Not material at all. We're eating prasadam. We're collecting spiritual things. It's all spiritual. Anyways, that's like a long way from like gross material enjoyment. Like collecting some dust in your kavach is a long way from like, you know, hanging out with a beautiful woman and, you know, enjoying sense gratification. Chris Prabhu?
There's a general concept that I think they would appreciate, which is if we're souls in bodies and we're spiritual beings functioning in a material world. So whatever we're doing inherently is spiritual, but since we're in a material world, there's a material appearance of it. And that's what we're seeing with our material senses. It doesn't mean it's a material activity. It's the material appearance of it is like a side effect of the spiritual activity.
A material activity is defined by Srila Prabhupada, that which entangles us, and that which never leaves us satisfied. That which is temporary. Nasato vidyate bhavo, nabhavo vidyate sataha, uvaryapi dristonyas, tvanyos tatvadarshibhi. The sages have concluded that that which is eternal has no end. And that which is false, that which is illusion, has no endurance. They've concluded this by studying the nature of both. So devotional service is an eternal activity because that's what the soul does. So although the varieties may change out here, the actual activity of loving God, that is eternal. And so the living entity always is spiritual, always in a spiritual position, but is covered over by the illusion of thinking himself separate from God. And therefore enjoying that which is temporary. So if you want to enjoy a temporary situation, that is going to cause some misery.
But isn't it kind of a catch-22 because you can't really enjoy like the material world because you just become more entangled?
Yeah, it's like it's a slimy, sticky thing. Try to enjoy material world. It's like, I mean, you're gonna be. If you try to enjoy, that's why we're here. Aparyami tvastvanyam prakritim vidime param jiva mahabaho yedam daryatejagat. That the more you try to enjoy, the more you're going to become miserable. That's the fact. Is that the key is that, I mean, and this is the false ego gets in there. The false ego, when he hears this, he immediately wants to like fight it. No, it's cool, you know, but because they're enjoying, like, okay, like sometimes you tell people this and they're like, man, I got a good life. I love my life. And it's like, you have the good karma of loving your life. You're not you're not the poor people in Iran or Israel or Gaza, you know, you're not those people. You don't have the sickness and old age and disease yet. You know, you have some mode of goodness. Therefore, you are conditioned by a sense of happiness. That's what the mode of goodness does. It conditions you to a sense of happiness and makes you think it's all right here. I have knowledge. I'm a philosopher. And happiness and knowledge, that's what the mode of goodness does to you. Still, you have to take birth again. That's cool. If I take birth like this again, it's cool. I'm good with that. But still, all activities will be accounted for. You'll get a body, you'll have to face consequences, you'll become re-entangled. Therefore, Krishna says, Abhrama Bhuvanaloka, Punaravatino. From the highest planet down to the lowest planet, all are places of suffering. Krishna says, this world is Dukkhalayama Shashvatam. This is the supreme authority. Krishna himself is saying, Dukkhalayama Shashvatam, temporary and full of misery.
What was the negative flip side of mode of goodness again?
One is conditioned to a sense of happiness and knowledge.
How much you mean by ignorance?
Oh, yeah.
My name. Just think of me.
We're gonna change your name to Sattva. We're gonna name you Shuddhasattva Das.
Sticky is such an apt image of it too, because the more you touch it, the more stuck you be. I think we've all experienced that, like if you get sap on your hand and then you try to pull it off and it's stuck on this part. And
Yeah, it's like super glue. You're like,
so the more we touch the material world, the more.
There was one, when I was in Mayapur, there was one really kind of funny Prabhupada disciple who was in my Bhakti Shastri class. He would ask these like far out questions, just like brutally like honest. He'd be like, what if you see a woman and you want to touch her? And like, it was such a weird question he asked him, like this brahmachari, without even like a second thought, he goes, how long can you touch her? And it was such a like powerful moment. He goes, but how long can you touch her? And it was like, he just did this. Shook his head like, yeah, that's right. How long can you enjoy? So, no, we're hearing here how Narada Muni had a good position. He's in a loving mother is a very wonderful thing, you know, loving wife, loving mother. These are the Lord's opulences, and not that they're condemned. We're not condemning them. We're not condemning opulence or these things, but the attachment that will come from them is condemned, and the Lord's mercy is that he will take that away. The Lord's mercy is that he will take that away. If you want to be a devotee. If you want to be a devotee, the Lord will take that away. Because that's ultimately illusion, you see. We have to be able to just, Krishna, you're my all, you're my only one, you're my only one. That's it, that's the end goal. So it's a process. It's not that we have to like beat ourselves up where we're at, but I think we'll probably end here. Omar got some lassi, but we'll keep talking. I'll just read this last little verse here. I took this as special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north. So Narada Muni heard about his mother's death. His mother died of a serpent. And what did he say? He said, this is the Lord's mercy. So it's the Lord's, when the Lord beats up a devotee, that's the Lord's mercy on the devotee. You know, that's the mercy that I'm losing the things I love, and Krishna's taking them away for my benefit. Which is a hard thing to accept sometimes for people. Am I ready to? And so sometimes we go back, sometimes we crawl back in. It's like Prabhupada gives the brutal example of a worm. You take it out of the pile of stool and it goes back in. So in that way, we're kind of like that. We want to enjoy we want to enjoy these low things, right? We want to be intoxication is like an embarrassing state, right? It's an embarrassing thing. Here I am, a being, an animal. I'm going to go drink poison, breathe in toxins. I'm going to get all foggied out, and like, it's enjoyable. And this is not, no condemnation, but this is an embarrassing place to be. It's not intelligent. It doesn't make any sense at all from someone in the mode of goodness's perspective. There's zero sense in it, but we think it's cool in the mode of ignorance. And so, Krishna's really just taking us away from these. Thank you, Prabhu.
What's inertia? Thomas is inertia, not ignorance, right?
Are you Thomas?
Ignorance. Thomas means ignorance.
So there's mode of goodness, mode of ignorance, and mode of passion.
Yeah.
So the bad side of mode of goodness is what?
That's a good lassi, Prabhu. One becomes attached to good happiness.
attachment.
And become attached to their happiness and knowledge. That's what the mode of goodness really does. It makes one attached to happiness and knowledge. So they're not always serious about Krishna consciousness. They're not always serious because they're conditioned by a sense of goodness. And they feel they're smarter than everybody else.
It seems to be happening more and more with my peer group.
Pass more proof. So good. It's like, drink that whole thing. It's the best lassi ever. Your peer group, what's happening to them?
They're such experts and overly educated that they can't hear anything.
Yeah.
What is this? What is this?
Mango, yogurt, cardamom, sugar.
I'll see.
You want me in the-
How do you?
Yeah. All right, boy, everybody. Jai Lord, Jai Krishna.